Hello, and welcome to my dining room. This is episode 24 of the Live and Learn Knitting Podcast. Today is Friday, August 9th, 2024. My name is Annie, and I live on the banks of the Mississippi River in western Wisconsin. And it's a little almost sweater weather out there today, kind of surprising for the beginning of August, but we'll take it. I'd like to thank you for joining me today, and I appreciate all the subscribers and viewers and nice comments from everyone. I'm still going through the last batch of comments. I want to respond to them, and I just need to sit down and take care of that because there have been some good information that you've provided, and I need to follow up on some of it. So just remember, if you like the podcast, please like and subscribe, and you can hit the bell to be notified of when new episodes come out. And I know this summer the episodes have been coming out a little bit sporadically. I used to do every 2 weeks on a Thursday, but this summer has been sporadic. There have been a lot of unexpected twists and turns to it. And when I get an idea for an episode, I sometimes, have to do some research and figuring things out, gathering information and all that, what I want to talk about. But once that happens, I don't really like to sit on it for too long because I can forget. My train of thought, gets a little derailed sometimes. So, so I thought, well, they're out when they're out. And you guys, you can watch them anytime you please, morning, noon, or night. That's the beauty of the internet and the world we live in today. So it's on demand. Thank you for joining me. We haven't done this in a while, but I took 2 big bags of bedding and a box of donations to the local thrift store, one of my favorite local thrift stores, last week. And, I wasn't going to buy anything, but I did find a few things. And this is one, I couldn't pass this up. Look at that pretty knitting inspired mug. And it's very big. And this could hold soup for me in the wintertime, which is kind of nice. Again, it's wide. It's got a wide body to it. So I have some tea this morning because it is chilly, cooler. And I have Yogi Kava, which is a stress eliminating blend of some good herbs. And it does taste really good. And the little affirmation on the tag says, "The universe is within you, bright and beautiful." That's nice. The universe is in us, and we should strive for bright and beautiful. Yeah, that's always a good thing. So I do need a sip before we get started. But this episode is going to be called Small Things Part 1, because I actually had 2 small things that I thought I would talk about. And I realized, well, I can talk for the whole episode just on this one thing and related concepts and ideas. So without further ado, what I'm wearing today is the Leaf Lace Scarf, and it's a free pattern on Ravelry by Kaylee, Kaylee, C-A-Y-L-I, Kaylee Malone. And look at this pretty lace. Now, I'm doing this because I said in previous episodes that I don't like to knit lace. It's not my favorite thing. And of course I thought, well, I say that, but I have knit lace, and I will do it. And sometimes I actually like it and like doing it. So this is one of those times. So this is the Leaf Lace Scarf, and this edge, I want to show you now. This edge is the cast on edge, and you see the little scallops that it formed. And so we're working up, and then and look at that beautiful shawl scarf pin. I got this at Blue Heron Knittery in Decorah, Iowa, and I think it goes really well with a scarf like this. It's the kind where it's just on a little hairpin, back. And so it fits in there really nicely. But now you get to the bottom, the cast-off edge, and look, even it blocked straight. And I looked at other projects on the Ravelry website, other project pages, and most of everyone's blocked straight like that. And so you can see that this is the up direction, and then these are going in the down direction. And now, for this project, that's not that big of a deal, but I want to talk about that further on in the episode. And I think I said, I'll say it again, the pattern has both a chart and written instructions, because I know some people don't like charts. I don't mind them. If there's a lot going on in them and they're complicated, I do usually have to refer to written instructions, or at least the explanations of all the symbols quite a lot. So until you get the hang of it, this one had a pretty good rhythm to it. So this yarn, one reason I don't like lace that much is because I'm a loose knitter, and you have to strike a balance with, you know, getting a nice even fabric, and I don't want it to be, you know, too open, and you have to have some structure there. So for me to knit this scarf, the yarn I used was Malabrigo Silkpaca lace weight yarn, and that's 70% alpaca, 30% silk blend, and it has 420 yards per 50 gram ball, so it's very fine. And I actually had to use it double stranded and with a size 1 needle to get a US size 1, and I'm sorry I don't know what that converts to in millimeters, but to get a fabric that had some drape to it, still showed, you know, the lace. If I would have tried to knit that with a single strand on a size 1, it would have been so open and loosey-goosey and not pretty at all for me. So I did this project back in 2016, I believe. And it's funny because this pin I got later on at Decora, and I do remember working on this while I was in Decora one Saturday. I had gone down for a lecture that Vesterheim was giving, and this was my take-along knitting project while I was waiting in between the other stuff that I had done that day, you know, looking at the museum, looking at the exhibits, going and having some lunch, and then waiting for the lecture to start. I worked on this project. So yeah, I think that was 2016 in the spring. And it is just a nice, you know, light. It's not going to be I mean, it will keep me warm, sure. It's alpaca and silk. So it will keep me warm. The silk gives this a nice sheen to it. But, you know, it's not a heavy winter. It's a decorative scarf, for sure. It's that pop of color. It's the pop of texture, interest. Yeah, just a good accent piece. And, of course, yeah, it's not very long. So it just, for me, crosses over and pin it. Or I could do like a real simple knot, but this way is fine. And I just knit until I used up the one skein of lace weight yarn. And I'm trying to remember, I looked at the pattern last night. I think I did fewer repeats than what she had in the pattern. She might have had, I did 3 across. She might have had 5 in her pattern. But that's it. You can adjust and do as many repeats as you prefer. But this was the width I wanted, a skinny scarf. And it turned out pretty well, I think. For lace, for me knitting lace. for sure. So, but blocking, yeah, I could not get the one end, the cast off, the bind off end, to look the same as the cast on end with that scallopy edging to it. And I think that is probably just the nature of this stitch pattern. You'd think, I mean, it is angular, but for some reason at the top, it does not angle. And maybe it's because you were filling in a bit with stockinette here. Maybe if you did some decrease. So I'm not sure what would have precipitated a scallop at this end. And it's not that crucial for me. Could have been, but no, it wasn't. So I'm sure other knitters probably would take the pains to figure that out and make a scallop happen at the other end. I tried when I blocked it, and it's funny because on my, I don't think I put it on my project page, but I took a bunch of photos when I was blocking, and for some reason, even this thin scarf on the blocking mats with all these pins on it, and it was only, so wide, Raleigh, a cat, still had to come and sit on the darn wet scarf while it was drying, that very first blocking. So, that's what happens. But it was an enjoyable project, a good lace project. So yeah, I'm not gonna say I don't do lace. It's just not my favorite. Not my favorite. But nice when it turns out, isn't it? We always have that. So, and one reason I was doing a couple small things is because, a couple episodes ago when I talked about the Advent idea and did the Advent scarf and talked about that, I think we might do something this winter, like I said, the winter tide knit along, make along kind of idea. And I've got some ideas still in my head. And so, small gift projects. Now lace, this it took some effort. So that would be a good gift if you like to knit lace a lot. It would be fine. Otherwise, it could be a chore. But it's a nice small project as far as not having to, spend a lot on materials. One precious skein. How many times do we buy that one precious skein for something special and then we don't really know what to do with it? So this is a good choice. So I'm kind of gathering some of these ideas, and I would like you to be thinking about those things too. And we'll talk more about that as fall approaches, how this make-along idea will expand. So that's what I'm wearing. And because this lace scarf, is sort of directional and didn't turn out directional, it reminded me of a book I have. And it's an older book from, I looked it up, I think 2000? Yes, 2000. And it is this one, Stammen's Shawls and Scarves by Myrna, self-published by Myrna Stammen. She called herself Rocking Chair Press. She is out of Boise, Idaho, and she's still a little active on Ravelry. She likes lace knitting, and these shawls, we'll talk about that in a bit. She has a career in law. I'm not sure if she is a judge. She might be, and so she's got that courtroom mind, that attention to detail mind. And definitely this book is a masterclass on knitting these are Faroese shawls, and then these are Siemens scarves, and primarily lace patterns in this book, but also some texture patterns. and just a textbook basically on how to design your own, and taking apart these two pattern concepts and, explaining the history of it, the construction methods of it, and how she adapted the traditional construction methods to make things just a little bit better. And I tell you, when we find, books and ideas like that, it's a very good thing. Now I said this is 2000, so it's an older book, and it is 152 pages. There's a lot in here. I don't know if you can still buy this new from Myrna Stallman, from her, the publishing, the Rocking Chair Press. But I did look it up, and I saw it available used online in the used bookstore places, ABE Books and probably others, for, in the States, less than $10, including shipping. That's really a value for a book like this. If you like lace knitting, if you like shawl knitting, the scarf idea, that's really good. And of course, perhaps it's available at some libraries as well. So I'll show you in here. I've got a few pages marked to share. We'll get back to that one. Here's one of the things she did. She knit the same, and all the photos in this book are in black and white. So a bit, but you can go online and see, the Ravelry project pages for some of these things. But this shows you the same scarf knit in every weight of yarn, from a cobweb weight to lace weight, sport, worsted, chunky, or Aran, and then bulky. And it just, shows you what effect the, your needle size and your yarn choice, and how you can adapt any kind of yarn to make this scarf if you'd like. So these patterns that she gives are very adaptable to you and your specific style of knitting, which is really helpful, very good. So here is a photo of the shaping of a Faroese shawl. This is the traditional shaping. It's not a triangle shawl, it's this butterfly shape. And that is so that it wraps around you and does not come off your shoulders. That's how Faroese shawls were constructed. And they traditionally, I believe, were from the bottom up, in these, and there was it's hard to see on this gingham, but she uses the gingham as her blocking background, and so that's why it's on there. But there is a central wedge panel, and then these side panels are shaped out from that. So there's increasing happening going like that, and then also along the edges. I have not knit a Faroese shawl. She does have a couple in here that are a textured pattern, like this one, Fenna, which is named for her mother, I believe. Yes, named in honor of her mother. And that's just garter stitch, but it's got that shaping. And so with that shaping, it's very much that where she shows it, that she has, the ends tied behind her, or at least tucked into a waistband or something behind her, because they cross over nicely. It doesn't just hang open like a triangle or a crescent shape might. So I will also just show you the other really interesting thing about this book is the appendix. It's full, it's packed full of stuff. So this was a pattern, a map of where the Faroe Islands are located. They are here north of Great Britain and south of Iceland. So, and then she did a pullout, of where they're at. So that gives you a bit of an idea of what we're talking about. And I am not sure, she doesn't say which one of these, where the Shetland Isles are compared to the Faroe Isles, but all up there in that North Sea, North Atlantic. And so a lot of detailed information, charts. She has, the patterns are charted. There are some written instructions. I'm not sure if every shawl pattern has full written instructions, but there are charts. So if you like charts, great. If you want a challenge to learn charts, there you go. But there are also written out patterns. Some, like I say, I didn't look through to see if all were. But the, so she goes to the Faroese shawls, and that's the main first part of the book. But then she also talks about the seaman's scarf, and that is this construction where you have a ribbed neck section and then the body of the scarf, and it doesn't have to be lace, it can be texture, but you have that at the ends. And so the ribbing of that scarf, because when we put a scarf on like this one, I actually just reblocked this week for the podcast, because in wearing it, and it's not a seaman's scarf like this, the lace pattern is the full length of the scarf, but in wearing it and keeping it scrunched up around my neck, that drew in, so it looked a bit not worn. It just looked worn, and it was drawn in, and it was actually a little, when I laid it out flat, it was a little skinnier. So I reblocked the whole scarf for today. But that's what made me think, well, I should do another one, or the next scarf that I make, I should make a seaman's scarf. And I did make one of these from her book many years ago. I finished it in early 2016. I made this one. Sorry for the glare from the windows. I'll hold it like that. And this is in her book. This is a pattern. So you can see that, the back section, and I maybe made it, it's hard to say if that's a little longer than necessary, but made that back neck has ribbing on it, and then the front pieces have the texture. So that, and if you do make that ribbing longer, then you can knot all of that, and what shows down in front then is just the texture or the lace. Or you could do color work, you could do intarsia, although, and reverse side, anyway, you could do whatever you like. But just having that neck have ribbing to it, it makes sense from a physical wearing standpoint. Especially if you're using a heavier weight yarn, that can get really bulky back there. So to have the ribbing, it makes it just lay a lot nicer. And why they're called seaman's scarves is they were, I believe, originally designed, and she talks about that in the book here, the history of the traditional seaman's neck scarf. It comes from the Seamen's Church Institute, and that was an organization that was conceived in the late 1800s to supply, it says in here, to supply warships with just what they needed and give comfort to mariners. Things like medical supplies, Bibles, literature, and warm clothing. So this Seamen's Church Institute it's an organization that was founded in New York, and I was trying to find if it's an international organization or not. Their website, which I will put a link to in the show notes, is packed with information, and it does talk about their history and everything, but they never really, at least what I read, again, and I've read it off and on different times, but specifically when I was looking to see if it was US based or international, I couldn't find a distinction one way or the other. But all of the contact information and all the places to send knitted items, crocheted items were US addresses. But Mariners, it's an international thing. They're going all over the world, and the merchant ships that are out there are out for long periods of time, and that's their life, being on these ships. So yeah, the Seamen's Church Institute provides chaplaincy to mariners on the ships and when they come into ports. That's the program that it is. And so they distribute these Christmas boxes to, the mariners, the whoever's working on the boats at Christmas time. And if you go to the website, there is a whole section just on the Christmas at Sea program, and it's packed full of patterns, and they're all free patterns. There's knitting patterns, crochet patterns, and they give you a lot of detailed information on what kind of materials they want, the things to be made of. And I'm not so sure about colors. They used to just want certain colors, but I think they have guidelines. Let's just put it that way. They have guidelines, and they're good. So this initial scarf was it's just a garter stitch scarf, basically a large, across the whole chest there, 2 layers across the chest, but with that neck ribbing idea. So that was the initial scarf that was designed way back in the early 1900s, late 1800s. And since then, of course, knitters, we want to adapt everything. So they came up with other variations. There's one with, a little triangle, pointy end to it. There are others that are not garter stitch, other textures in that. That website has, many different ideas. But Myrna, in her book, took that concept of the seaman's scarf and applied a lot of the Pharaoh or the lace patterns that she was using in her Pharaoh shawls to a scarf. So here on one page is the shawl pattern, and then here's that same lace pattern adapted to a seaman's scarf. And what Myrna did was address this idea, because she's got that detailed mind, address this idea of direction in the texture, in the lace pattern, because she has some patterns in here that need to be, they have directional motifs to them. So you can't have, I thought I had one marked. Let's see here. Ooh. Sorry. Like she has one that's got Christmas trees on it, since it's, the Christmas at Sea. Well, you can't have your trees facing down on one side and up on the other side. So, or hearts, she's got one in here with hearts. So her idea, and it's a simple idea, anyone can do it, is you do a provisional cast on up here at the neck edge, and you work that ribbing section first or second, depending on the direction of the thing that you're knitting. If you're knitting Christmas trees and you're doing pointy end. So you knit down, then you unpick your provisional cast on and you knit down in the other direction. And that way, both of your scarf sections, the motifs, the lace, whatever it happens to be, is facing the same direction. And how cool is that? And so on this scarf, I could have done that. I could have, how would I do that with this one? Because the cast on edge is what made the scallop. I guess what I would have to do would be to, if I wanted that scallop on both edges, I'd have to knit one section up, put it on a holder, put the live stitches on a holder, and then knit the other section of the scarf with the ribbing, and then graft that together, which would be just one row of grafting. I mean, it wouldn't be terrible. This was this had to be less than 50 stitches. It had to be, maybe, I could look it up, but you know, let's say 40 stitches. And I know that this scarf that I did was 30 some stitches. So, you know, that's not a lot to do for grafting if needed, but that would only be if you really wanted to have that scallopy edge at both ends. Not necessary, just pretty. So, you know, you can just do, adapt these patterns and have them all facing the right, not the right way, the same way. So that's what she did. So there are, I was going to count it up how many patterns are in here. There are a lot of patterns in here. So patterns for quite a few shawls. I could count them up really fast. I know you're interested. I know you're curious. Oh boy. The shawl patterns and the matching. See, some of the shawls, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, like 15 shawl patterns, and then more than 15 scarf patterns, because the scarves match the shawls, but then there are more scarves that don't necessarily match the shawls. There are more of the solid texture patterns in here, which that is really what I appreciated, since, like I said, I don't like lace. But you could take any stitch pattern from a stitch dictionary and do that. You know, you wouldn't even necessarily need Myrna's book, although for less than $10 at a used book site, that's pretty good. But yeah, just take a pattern from a stitch dictionary, do your gauge swatch, figure out how wide you want your scarf, make a fabric that's nice for you, and do your provisional cast on, do some ribbing, and go to town and knit your scarf. It'd be really, yeah, I like that ribbing idea. And that scarf, I thought, what happened to that scarf? Because again, I said it was 2016, and I knew I had done one, and it wasn't in my Ravelry pages. And I thought, what and when and where is it now? Well, I've been cleaning photos off my phone, and I saw the photos for it, and I thought, oh, well, that was handy. So they were from 2016. I went back in my diary and looked, and I had donated it to a library fundraiser. So that's why it didn't hang around very long after I finished it. Yeah. And that was why it kind of went out of my memory for a while. But I really should make another one so that I can wear it and have it. And again, good gift ideas. So that's my lace talk for today. And I know a lot of people do like to knit lace, and you know, it shows in that book, it can be any weight. It doesn't have to be lacy lace and cobweb lace and those, you know, fine airy shawls. It can be knit in chunky weight yarn and still be nice lace. open and airy. So, knitting is so adaptable, isn't it? Yeah, very much so. So the last thing I'm going to just talk about, since we're talking about the Christmas at Sea program, and I don't remember if I showed this hat in an episode last year when I was talking about hats, but it's worth showing again, and it might come up again towards the holidays. But this is the Christmas at Sea 1898 hat, it's called. And so this is another free pattern on that Christmas at Sea website, which I will link to. And how you make this, it's so clever. I love things that have clever construction. You cast on garter stitch, you have 3 stitches in the center that are I-cord, and then there's more garter stitch. So you're working, I can't show it flat because this is all sewn together right now, but you're working back and forth in garter stitch, and you increase and decrease for these ear flaps, and you work around, and when you take that, you seam the garter stitch in the back. You can do garter stitch grafting if you have to, but there's not that many stitches. And look how nice, I just sewed that together. It shows a little more on the inside for some reason. Or I did 3 needle bind off. That's what I did. I did a 3 needle bind off to join that. Of some sort. Anyway, what that I-cord that is at the center does, it gives it this beautiful crisp folding line so that your edge of your cap it folds up so nicely, and then you pick up into your side edges and knit the brim of this. And this, okay, garter stitch is squishy and thicker on its own, but then you have 2 layers of it, so it's even more, this feels like a nice hot pad type thickness, it's very thick. And I believe this wool is Cascade 220. So, the regular, not the superwash. So I'll put this on. Now, it is very much a helmet, definitely. I'm ready to go play old school football. But these beautiful ear flaps that come down over your ears, they're wonderful. They're wonderful. I can see where this would be a great hat to wear out in the open. I have one that I made out of that, I'm not going to remember the name of the yarn. It was a very fluffy yarn. It's not as, it's alpaca and cotton and wool, I believe, and some acrylic. I can't remember the name. Sorry. I wasn't going to talk about it. That's why I didn't look it up. But that one is not very windproof. But it's warm. It's very warm, and it's very thick. I did think another thing you could do to make this even thicker is before you sew, so when you fold this up, before you pick up the stitches, you could actually in here even put, line this in the inside with a piece of felt or flannel or, a little bit of wool batting, and just like tack that down in the ear flap section to make sure that no air, no wind is getting in those ears. And of course this one, you could make them a little bigger. This one is big for me. It's a man size, this one. You can adapt the size of the hat is going to depend on how many rows of garter stitch you do. So this fits me fine. It's not snug. It's not loose either. It fits okay. But you could make a little bigger one and then shrink it a bit in the washer so that got a little denser too. I should try that because, this is going to shrink at a different rate than this. So test that. That would be a good thing to test a lot before you, committed too much to it. But anyway, a fun hat to knit. Really didn't take too long. I've made several of these and I really enjoy them. I don't know. Again, they kind of look, all hats look goofy at one time or another, don't they? I mean, yeah, but it's a good workhorse hat. So that's also on that Christmas at Sea website. Take a look at that. Take a look at scarves. Maybe someday I'll do a Faroese shaped shawl. Again, because I said I'm not a shawl person. One reason I'm not a shawl person is because of that, how they hang and drape. But having one that is more that you can tie around you, or that folds over and doesn't fall off your shoulders, that appeals to me. So we'll see. I think that's all for this time. There's not a whole lot new going on here. It's just summer is summer, and yeah, I'm looking forward to continuing with thinking ahead, thinking of fall sweaters, working on projects. One of the things I like about this podcast, doing this, is that it's getting me to finish some older projects, so I have things to talk about. These were older projects that have been done for a while, but this one. But it's nice to revisit them. It's nice to, remember what went into them. And that's the thing. We finish our projects and we shouldn't forget how much effort and smarts and innovation and skill that went into all of our knitting and our making. And be proud of that. Give yourself a pat on the back for doing that. It's not easy all the time. It can be a challenge, but we're up for it, right? We are up for these challenges. So I will leave you with that today, and also that you have the universe inside you, and it's bright and it's beautiful, and it contains knitting and crocheting and any kind of making that you want to do to make this world a better place. Oh my gosh, is that ever syrupy sappy? But that's what we have to do, right? Okay. Take care, everyone. Everyone. I need to enunciate better. Take care. Be well. We'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.